The Sports Source Saturday Kickoff is brought to you by Hearthside Bank and by Madisonville Marine.
If you're Josh Heupel and you're making the money he's making, you better make decisions that help you keep your job, not what the fans want you to do.
They were one of the big winners, really, nationally on early signing day to get 5 new players. Got a few 4 stars. You flipped guys that were committed to other major programs to steal even a guy like JJ Finch away from Alabama was a big deal. And that's a 3-star, but a guy Tennessee really coveted for a long time.
With all the attention that's come Nate Amen's way, I think he's handled it well, and I think that every time he goes out, he learns some hard lessons against Syracuse.
Good Saturday morning and welcome into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We have a lot in store for you today. We got football, we got basketball, we got recruiting. All Vols for the next 60 minutes. I am John Pennington, joined by Ryan Callahan of Go Vols 24/7 right here. We got John Wilkerson back with us. You've seen him if you were watching the Syracuse game the other night. He was right there front and center. You've heard him on the radio, 99.1 The Sports Animal. And right there, Jimmy Himes. I don't know, do I need to introduce you gentlemen? Jimmy Himes,
never met.
We're familiar.
Jimmy, of course, you can find him all things Sports Source for the most part. And then they can also find you. You put your own columns and stuff up on what, Facebook page, or you've got a website?
Facebook and Twitter is where
go.
we're doing that. So, and we've got the podcast with Heath Shula that we've done through the football season. So we've enjoyed that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that show lands next year.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay. Very good. Welcome in. This first segment brought to you by our friends at Hearthside Bank. Hearthsidebank.com is where you can go to learn more. They're always within reach, and folks, they're always trustworthy. It's a group that's been around for 105 years, and if you need a group to really sit down with you, plan out your financial future, and work with you every step of the way, Hearthside Bank is the group to do it. It is a personal style of banking. It's not one of these situations where you're talking to a video screen and someone's in Tibet. You'll be dealing with people right here in Kentucky and in Tennessee. Hearthside Bank. Okay. Let's talk a little Tennessee football. In case you hadn't heard, the Vols didn't end on a high note. Last week with the ugly loss to Vanderbilt, the fan base not happy. It's about what I expected. You had sort of the fire eaters are out. They're not pleased at all. But you've got another group that's like, well, I don't like losing to Vanderbilt like that, but let's see what more Heupel has. And then you have the other people who realize, look, he dug us out of a trench. 8-4 isn't that bad. But for those people that are fire eaters, those are the ones that always go on social media. Those are the ones that go on talk shows. Those are the ones that kind of stir the message. So my question, are changes necessary on this coaching staff? And we'll start it right there with the fan aspect of it. I'm going a little reverse from what we talked about, and then we'll get into whether they're really necessary. But do you think there's anything that needs to be done to appease the gods? Do you ever believe in that? Throwing somebody over the side of the boat just to relieve the pressure a little bit?
I don't think it's something you have to do, but it comes down to where the coach is in terms of his level of confidence. And I would think that with what Tim Banks did defensively, 2023 and especially 2024, he likes him as a coach. And so from that aspect, if he's lost faith in him, then make a change.
Yeah.
But if he still has the same confidence in him, then sure, because what you never know is what the game plan was, what the players were coached to do, and whether or not they were able to go out and execute said game plan. They might have been everything you had to do on paper. They didn't have the personnel to go out and perhaps get it done.
Right. I mean, we don't even know what the plan was at the beginning of the season because you never had Jermod McCoy back, and Ricky Gibson went down in the first half against Syracuse. So that threw out your plan from the beginnings. That has to be taken into effect. Do you guys believe in tossing guys over the boat or over the side of the boat to relieve pressure on the head coach?
I don't. Well, for one, I don't think it relieves pressure. I was talking with someone about this the other day. I think you fire people, you don't fire people. It doesn't matter. If you go 8-4, people are going to be unhappy next year regardless. So I think that doesn't really change anything. So who cares what goodwill it might or might not give you? You just got to do what the best thing is for the team on the field. I also don't believe in that, though, because you can make changes without making staff changes. Look at what Tennessee did offensively this year.
Yep.
They didn't overhaul the staff, but they overhauled the offense a good bit.
And they did bring in some analysts who could play a role now.
Absolutely.
You've got those expanded staffs now.
Yeah, we also don't know, and this is, I don't know if Josh Heupel's looking at this, but if I were Josh Heupel, I'd be looking at this. Who am I going to get if I get rid of, say, Tim Banks? You don't know. And if you don't have someone already in mind, that's a concern. Look what happened when they searched for Tim Banks. He was not their first guy they went after.
Right.
They went for a few others before they got him. So who's to say you're going to end up with someone better? And going into such a critical year, I would want to feel like I know exactly what I've got. He may say we've got some things we got to do differently, but maybe we just do them differently instead of changing the people who are doing those things.
Maybe you find a good guy. Maybe you go to Alabama and get a guy like a Sal Sinceri that turns out. Oh wait, that didn't work out.
I'm opposed to that.
Yeah, Jimmy, what do you believe on the idea that we've got to get rid of? There are people out there that say, well, to prove to us that you care as much as we care, show that this hurts you as much as it hurts us, throw somebody to the wolves.
No.
And okay, there you go. Go ahead.
No, I don't agree with appeasing the fan base if they want you to make changes or to fire somebody. I'm not on board with that. And the key thing is, if you're Josh Heupel and you're making the money he's making, you better make decisions that help you keep your job, not what the fans want you to do. And that's not always in the same alignment. Are there changes that need to be made? Yeah. I think on defense, you got a concern. I don't necessarily think it's Tim Banks. I have concerns about the secondary. I worry about them. On the flip side of that, and you pointed this out, okay, but you didn't have McCoy and Gibson.
Yeah.
So how fair is that to look at Willie Martinez and say, well, they underperformed?
I can also go ahead. I can also look at it. I'll jump in. I can also look at it and say, you got Colton Hood in here, played pretty well all year. He hit the ground running. Ty Redmond finished the year a lot better than he started.
He did.
Correct.
So do you punish Willie Martinez for that?
No.
And the problem is for Willie Martinez, he was here with Butch Jones, and people remember him being here with Butch Jones. He's also plays. There are two positions, or three, I guess. We can watch somebody getting beat, and we know cornerbacks coach, secondary coach. Every time somebody gets beat over the top, receivers drop a pass, receivers coach, and then everybody can do a better job than the offensive coordinator because we can all sit there and call plays. Yeah. So those are the three that always get heat, and Willie Martinez is probably the most. This is the wrong word because it comes around right, but in terms of fans, he's the one that catches the most flack. He's the most disliked among the fan base, I think. But I don't know that it's necessarily fair. But if you're saying changes need to be made somewhere, though, on that staff, I think his would be the first name.
I had a bigger problem with the play at safety, not cornerback.
Right.
That concerned me some. And then at times at nickelback, they didn't play at the level I thought they needed to. But I think Redmond's got a chance to be a really good player. I'm staying with him. Hood played well enough to where at least one draft board said he should be a first-round draft pick. I don't know about that, but he did play pretty well. But the safety position, I didn't think they got what they needed to out of that.
I also thought Boo Carter. I expected, could he have been? I expected he would have been better safety than he was moving to kind of a nickel corner, in my opinion, because I don't know that he's a cover guy as much. He was a big hitter. And he could wrap you up as a tackler, but I don't know where his mind was all year. He didn't look like a guy who was very much engaged. So I'm not trying to make excuses for Willie Martinez, but that's the problem when you do this. There are excuses for all of these guys. It's just a question of what's an excuse, what's a reason.
Well, I'll say this too. I don't think a lot of people realize this. Willie Martinez coached the safeties and nickels this year. He's not the cornerbacks coach at this point. So they've kind of shuffled things around there. Yeah. So I heard a lot of fans actually giving Tim Banks the blame for the safety play because he, before this year, was the safeties coach more so. So either way, there's some stuff on the back end to fix. I mean, but how much of that is a talent problem too? I think you got to get better talent-wise at safety before you can really throw anybody out and say that's the problem. But I think scheme-wise, there's some things they've got to address. Now, again, maybe Tim Banks just addresses them himself. I think part of the problem is Tennessee's defense is a little maybe too complicated. Too many things, players processing things while they're on the field during plays. I think there are things you can do to make things simpler that they maybe haven't done to this point.
And the other thing to me about the secondary, sometimes I watch these defensive backs at Tennessee and I think, well, he's okay. And then he goes to the NFL, he's pretty good. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What happened?
Yeah.
Why is he better in the NFL than he is in college, which to me gets back to my concern about coaching.
I spoke to a VFL last week. I don't know that he wants me to throw this out, so I won't throw his name with it, but spoke to a VFL last week who I was talking about creativity, and I was talking about offense. Yeah. He said, I'm good with creativity on offense. He said, I'm seeing 2 or 3 wrinkles a week that are different. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'm just – look, I watch the ball. I try not to, but I do. So I'm the guy who's going, oh, that worked. And if it works, then it's creative. If it doesn't work, it's not creative. I think that's a lot of what fans do. But you look at what you saw at Florida. And there were some creative uses of Ethan Davis that we haven't seen. Plays to set up other plays. Haven't seen tons of that. The VFL I spoke to said, I've seen quite a bit of that. He said, what I haven't seen is creativity on the defensive side of the ball. He wants it to be more complex.
Well,
and that's his take is it's very basic. He said, you look at what Clark Lee threw at this offensive line and confused the heck out of them. You look at what Venables threw at them and confused the heck out of them. When's the last time a Tim Banks defense confused the heck out of the other side?
Well, so what I was going to say is you don't have to. I think they can be. Those things can exist together.
Yeah.
You can have a simpler defense that also throws more things out of defense. It's just that you like defenses to be adaptable this year. So many teams throw motions at you and things like that, and you want that motion not to completely throw off what your defense is supposed to do on that play. So you have all these internal checks and adjustments that players are making on the fly. Well, that makes players have to think a lot even after the snap sometimes, and that's where I think Tennessee leads to problem. They're slow to react. They're not taking good angles on tackles because they're thinking about where they need to be up until right before the play is made. So I think there are things you can do there to streamline things, and you can still have a more creative defense. And I think that is fair criticism. I think there are some things they could do differently to maybe present some different looks in some situations.
John, I'll close out with you. Do you feel the need for changes on the staff? It's an 8-4 year. It was a disappointing year for some people, but at the same time, Vegas said 8.5 wins. I said 8 wins. But I don't know that it necessarily needs monster changes personally. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. Because, again, it comes down to as long as Josh Heupel has the confidence in each of his assistants to do what they have been charged with doing, then I don't make a change. Because you've gone into games with them for better part of 5 years now, and you've benefited from it. So unless his confidence in them has changed, I don't think you make a change for change's sake.
That's the problem with any of these discussions after an 8-4 year when people don't like an 8-4. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But overall, it's the same staff that went 10-3 into a playoff last year. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, this is an 8-4 ceiling kind of staff. It's like, well, no, it isn't. Just last year they were in the playoff and went 10-2, and so I don't know that. I don't know that the restless natives should be as restless as they are, but that's my feeling. Could be wrong. All right. When we come back, one thing that may have changed the conversation a little bit is the recruiting class. I'll sit down with Ryan Callahan. We'll chat a little bit about Tennessee's really good recruiting class this week. We got much more to come, including basketball talk and a little bit more football. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. Welcome back to the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. This segment of our show brought to you by Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive. Folks, I'm telling you, if you're looking for a new Kia, there's only one place to go, because Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive, they guarantee you, they promise you that they will beat any deal from any other Kia dealer anywhere. So if you're buying a Kia somewhere else, you're spending too much money. Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive, good enough reason as any to drive to Knoxville and go to Rusty Wallace Kia. Speaking of Callahan Drive, I'm back with Ryan Callahan. We've moved over to our New Orleans set here. I want to talk about recruiting. Of course, you cover it in depth for Go Vols 24/7. Tennessee with a good class. They wound up, things can change, but they moved to number 7 day after. Your thoughts on the number 7 ranking? They went in. A lot of people thought number 8, but they got a little bit higher than that. At one point, they were number 5. Mm-hmm. How did they get to number 7?
Yeah, pretty impressive finish. I mean, they were one of the big winners, really, nationally on early signing day to get 5 new players. I mean, one of them, an Australian punter, Logan Foley, didn't really do much of the star power, but you got a few 4 stars. You flipped guys that were committed to other major programs to steal even a guy like JJ Finch away from Alabama was a big deal. And that's a 3-star, but a guy Tennessee really coveted for a long time. But Jordan Carter, 4-star edge rusher from Georgia, to be able to steal away a guy like Carter Gooden, a 4-star edge rusher committed to UCLA that they also beat out Vanderbilt for at the last minute. That's a top 100 guy in 24/7 Sports rankings.
With revenue sharing, that means something now.
Absolutely, and that's where I was kind of going to go. Like the number 7 ranking it's just so different from 5-7 years ago, because at that time 7 to 1 was a big gap, and now it's like everyone's so close together. I mean, you got the number 1 player in the country in 24/7 Sports rankings going to Houston, the number 3 player going to Vanderbilt. Obviously, Tennessee got number 2 in Faison Brandon, but the top 15's got Texas Tech going has a player in there. You see a couple of the heavy hitters, but it's the talent's getting spread out everywhere. And so for Tennessee to have the number 7 class and for a minute at number 5, it's a really good thing because so many programs have resources now. Tennessee's one that seems to be taking advantage of its opportunities, and there's not as big a gap between them and 1. So really to have a class that close to the top when so many are close together, where anybody in the top 15 probably has pretty good or comparable talent, it's a pretty strong statement that Tennessee continues to climb in this era of so much parity.
One of the interesting things that you mentioned it on the Saturday Kickoff 2 or 3 weeks ago when you were on with us, and I noticed one of the players yesterday was the kid that flipped from UCLA, I believe. When asked about why he chose Tennessee, he went back to stability on the coaching staff, which that had some pull this time around.
When you're a player like that, committed to a school like UCLA that's going almost 3 months without a coach,
right,
and you're looking at a couple programs like Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Vanderbilt, you had to worry, is someone going to come after Clark Lee? I mean, Clark Lee popped up in a couple coaching searches. Tennessee, no one that's really looked at Tennessee the last couple of years has had to worry, is Josh Heupel going to be there? Yeah. And and they also look around, the assistant coaches haven't left a whole lot. There's been a little bit of turnover, but not a lot. And the ones that have, it's not been widely speculated before that they were guys that had one foot out the door. So I think they had this perception that it's a staff that gets along well and has continuity, and that's playing well. And I have heard that multiple times this year from guys who dealt with this. We saw so many SEC schools affected by it. It was naturally going to come up, but to have the ability to point to your staff and say, hey, you feel the vibe. These guys like each other, like working together, and we're not going anywhere, and no one's talking about firing us. It's a big plus. All
right. I hate to interrupt myself, but I'm going to have to do that because when Ryan and I were taping that segment, news came in about Legend Bay, and now his situation's up in the air, and we'll get to that in a second. But I do want to, before we get back to that, I do want to reiterate something that Ryan said and give you some numbers to help explain it, make it a little clearer about how revenue sharing is changing college football. Take a look at these rankings. These are the differences between the number 1 school and the number 10 school in terms of the 24/7 grading system. So this year, the difference between number 1 USC and number 10 Miami was only 25 points. You go back to last year, it was 31 points. The year before that, it was 42 points between number 1 and number 10. And in 2023, it was a 50-point drop from Alabama at number 1 to Tennessee at number 10. And what does that tell you? It tells you that those top classes are more bunched together. That's because all the classes are more bunched together. Vanderbilt, Houston, going out and cherry-picking the top players in the country because they can spend more money. When it was about NIL and collectives, and it wasn't school money, athletic department money, well, you have to have some deep-pocketed donors. And Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia has more of that than Houston or Vanderbilt. But now that it's revenue sharing, now that the schools can put forth the SEC money they have coming in, or the Big 12 money in Houston's case, they can put in their ticket sales and popcorn sales and everything else. The school now has that cash. And now they can get involved. And if you're Vanderbilt, you can look at a guy like Jared Curtis and say, hey, we'll pay you twice as much as Georgia is. And now I'm not saying that that's what they're doing. I'm just saying they can do that. You look at Duke last year spending $4 million on a quarterback from Tulane. And in the case of Vanderbilt grabbing this kid from Georgia, and who would have thought Vandy would ever take a 5-star quarterback from Georgia? They can go and offer more money because Georgia's trying to pay all these blue chippers. So they have to spread that cash around. Whereas Vanderbilt, you're looking for a quarterback. You're looking to make that splash because you're not going to be able to afford a whole roster full of guys like that. So you get one guy, and they already know what difference one quarterback can make in terms of Diego Pavia. It's a really different system, and it's changed things, and it's spreading the wealth quite a bit. So it's even more impressive that Tennessee manages to have a really, really good class, the best class under Josh Heupel so far. Now, as for Legend Bay, the Tennessee commitment, he had all kinds of gray, the scarlet and gray laid out at his ceremony the other day to make his announcement that he is going to Ohio State. But just as he had flipped from Tennessee to OSU about a month ago, he flipped back to Tennessee on signing day. Mainly, as reporting goes, because his mother and his brother wanted him to go to Tennessee because Tennessee is offering more money. Okay, well, now he is looking like, or at least when we were taping this, it was looking like he would like to get out of that signature. So whether or not he gets a release or not, We don't know. You may know more than us on Saturday morning from when I'm taping this now, when I interrupted the taping of Ryan and myself. So you may know more there. But I will say this about that situation. I am not a fan of parents who pick their school for their kid. I don't care. He's 17. He's not 18 yet. Still, I don't care. It's the kid's choice. Let the kid make the choice. When the parent does this and forces the hand, the problem they run into is there's still a transfer portal out there. It's beckoning. It's just out there. It's like the green light at the end of the dock in The Great Gatsby. It's calling to this kid. So whether he had come to Tennessee or whether he'd gone to Ohio State, if he didn't want to go there, if that's not his number one choice, he's always going to be looking at that number two choice and thinking, well, when can I get out of here? I just think that's a very dangerous position to put your kid in because there's no guarantee that they're going to stay there. So let the kid make the decision. And unfortunately, in this case, Legend Bay's family is very much involved. We'll see how that one works out. You may know more than us. But the other aspect here is the fact that Ryan has said on our show, he said it on the Saturday Kickoff show about 2 months ago, that you have discounts that are given to Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama because those schools churn more people into the pros. This is the second time this has come up between Tennessee and Ohio State. Last year, for David Sanders, Tennessee had to pay more to Sanders than Ohio State was willing to pay to get him here. He was willing to go there for a discount because they churn people into the pros. Same thing this year with Legend Bay. Tennessee's offering more money. That works for the mother and the brother. But for Legend Bay, he still get his eyes set on the Buckeyes because they churn people into the pros. If Tennessee wants to start getting a discount, they're going to have to start churning more people into the pros and having guys have success in the pros. Okay, that's the interruption of our interruption. When we come back, we're going to turn this thing over to basketball, and I'll throw it back for Illinois coverage. We'll talk about where the Vols are, what they've done so far, and then we'll look at Illinois and we'll look at transfer portal strategy. We've got a lot more to come today, and hopefully I won't be interrupting myself anymore. See you on the other side of the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. Welcome back into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Folks, if you're in the market for a new boat or a pre-owned boat in 2026 when we get on the area lakes, you need to get to Madisonville. Highway 411 North, they do a tremendous job. There's no better place to buy a boat. People come from all over the Southeast to look at their incredible selection, their incredible prices. They even have them shipped. So you can go to madmarine.com and have a boat shipped to you. If they're shipping boats to California, Texas, and Florida, I think that tells you about their selection and their prices. Madisonville Marine. All right, back with Ryan, Jimmy, and John here. Let's talk about basketball. The Vols play Illinois a little later this afternoon, but let's try and catch up a little bit since we're shifting from football to basketball on this show. Pleasant surprises so far. What has caught your eye? John, you've been calling these games, so I'll start with you. What's caught your eye that's maybe been a pleasant surprise for you?
Well, I think that if you just look at the season as a whole, Jalen Carey is probably the one that has been on a steady uptick. With all the attention that's come Nate Ament's way, I think he's handled it well. And I think that every time he goes out, he learns some hard lessons against Syracuse when they were in the SEC ACC Challenge. But I also think that he knows the spotlight's on him, and you can't help but wonder if he's pressing just a little bit to make things happen and for him to live up to the top 5 billing that he's got in terms of his prospect status. But I like the way that Jalen Carey just continues to climb because it was a new scoring high for him when Tennessee came up just short against Syracuse. He's become their leading rebounder, and I think that he is probably the one that right now is meeting expectations.
Jimmy?
Yeah, he's playing like he did when he was at Vanderbilt against Tennessee. He's really playing well. Bishop Boswell, I've been impressed with him. He got in the lineup because of his defense, but he's also hitting threes.
Yeah.
And he's bringing a little something to your offense. So he has played at a higher level than I thought, and I think that's really good news. They need some help in the backcourt in that regard. But his defense and his ability to score some, I think he has played at a better level than I thought he would.
For me, it's Ament. I'm pleasantly surprised a little bit by how quickly he's picking things up. I thought he was, just sort of the reputation coming in and just his build and everything. I thought he was going to take some time, especially at this level, to play at the level he's capable of. He's already kind of starting to reach it. I mean, still plenty of adjustments to make and a lot more to his game, but I'm pretty surprised by how well he's doing so far.
Pleasant surprises when he's on the court. JP Estrella, I think he's an important part of this team. The problem is keeping him on the court, and some guys just have bad luck, and they can't stay out there. The old coach's line that the number one ability is availability.
Yes.
I think that he's a guy that you've got to get him healthy, got to get him on the court, because when he's out there, he brings so much to your basketball team. Just watching him early this season, I was reminded by how much I thought they missed him last year, how much better that team could have been, which was a great team last year. How much farther could they have maybe gone if you'd had another big body like J.P. Estrella to throw out there?
Yeah, you had a 3-game stretch where he averaged 17 points.
Yeah.
That's really good. And he can score inside or out.
Kind of your third real option
Yeah.
in terms of points.
Yeah, I like it gets back to your point. If they can get him on the court, but what he has done offensively has been outstanding in the times when he's been healthy. I really like the progress he's made.
And I'd also throw in, I like the leadership of Jacoby Gillespie. He's asked to do things this year with this program that he hadn't done at Belmont, that he didn't do at Maryland, and I think he's handling it well. Especially when things weren't going well offensively for him against Syracuse, you could just see his mind turning, and what do we need to try next possession to see if we can't find something that works. I think that, one, not only did he have a career high in terms of scoring against Rutgers when Tennessee played its first game out in Las Vegas, but I think he's given you the leadership that Rick Barnes expects out of a point guard.
One pleasant surprise, I guess, and it's going to be odd considering the Kansas game and the Syracuse game, but they meshed a little more quickly than I thought. Like you, Ament, the talk was of the top 4 or 5 recruits, and you cover recruiting, so you know this, he was a guy that he's a long-term project.
Yeah.
This guy's going to be spectacular someday in the NBA. He'll be good next year at Tennessee. He's been a little bit better than I expected. Gillespie's been he's hit the floor running a little bit more than I thought. So, and I didn't expect this team to go out and hang with Houston the way they did either. So I guess you could say their highs have been a little higher than I expected them to be at this point. Now, they also lost to Kansas. They also lost to Syracuse. So let's turn it around and talk about the things. We got a couple minutes here. Things that have to be fixed, and I think if you were asking Rick Barnes, turnovers would probably be way up at the top of the list. Gentlemen?
Well,
Anyway.
I'll go with what he said immediately following the loss at Syracuse, and that was they don't do on the floor what they do in practice. And that was also part of what made him less than happy after the second half fade against Kansas. It's like, okay, they beat Houston yesterday, had a 12-point lead in the second half against the Jayhawks, and then it's kind of like they stopped listening and can't do that. And so he thought maybe they were under the impression the hard work was done in terms of their trip to Vegas. So I think that there are still some steps to be taken in how they bring the game plan that they walk through, because I thought the plan that they had against Houston was spot on, and they went out and did it. And as he pointed out, he says, I know that last year's team, I don't know if they could have beaten Houston, but I know they would have won the next game because they had the presence of mind to do what needed to be done.
They have stretches to me where they don't seem to mesh well together. And those stretches need to be 3 or 4 minutes. They don't need to be 8 minutes. So that's the one thing that I see. It's like they're still trying to figure each other out a little bit.
Yep.
And when they've got it figured out during a stretch of a game, they're really good. But there are other parts where it's like the second half against Kansas that you're talking about, parts of the Syracuse game where it seemed like they couldn't make a basket.
And see, I expected more of those moments than I did the high moments. Well, because this is the first time in years you haven't had Zakai Ziegler, Josiah Jordan-James, those kind of guys you've had, even though you've had turnover and new one-and-dones come in, you've had that, the ballast has been there, the culture guys have been there to where other guys are coming in, but here's what we do. Without them, I wondered, okay, this is real alchemy. This is pure alchemy this year, throwing all these guys together. So I see what you're saying. I'm a little surprised that they've meshed as well as they have. You're right. They still have moments where they need to get back together and figure it out. I just think they've done a little bit better job. So I'm a little on the other. Maybe that's just because I came into it negative.
You bet.
Ryan, I'll let you finish. What's the one thing you got to fix?
Turnovers. I mean, because this team's not going to win many track meets, and you've got to take care of the ball and be more efficient. So, like for this team, especially building around Jacoby Gillespie the way they have, I think they thought they would be much better at taking care of the ball than they have. There are signs of getting better at it, but they've got to be more consistent in that. Can't be wasting possessions and turning it over consistently.
Sounds good. Okay. When we come back, let's talk about Illinois. That's the game coming up this afternoon. We'll break that down next. We've still got some more football stuff to discuss, including what's the portal strategy for Tennessee. We talked about recruiting. What about the portal? That's next, all coming up on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. Welcome back to the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. This segment of our program brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. Folks, if you need a good roof, if you're anywhere from Knoxville to Nashville or in between, Daniel Hood Roofing, that's the company to call. That's new roof, that's a roof repair, that's a roof cleaning, which actually can extend the life of your roof. Visit them, danielhood.net, to learn more. All right, back with Jimmy Himes, John Wilkerson, Ryan Callahan. Let's talk a little bit about the Illinois game coming up this afternoon, another good test for Tennessee. It was funny going into the season. There was a lot of talking about the schedule not maybe being up to snuff, but you still got the big names out there, and Illinois is going to be quite a test. John, your thoughts on the Vols, what you've seen so far from them, and what you're looking for this evening. What are you looking to see against the Illini?
Last year was such a great game at their place. Tennessee found a way to win, and it was Jordan Gainey with just the drive-by, straight to the basket to clinch it for Tennessee late. And I think both teams are really different this year from what they were last year. Illinois has some pieces, but they don't have all the same pieces. This is a team that has had 3 guys right now that have played in all 7 games in their starting lineup. So they've had some guys, their big guy, 7'1", they've got some size, which I think is going to help them compete with Tennessee. At the same time, I do wonder if they have the same athleticism that the Vols have when it comes to their front court personnel. But I think they're a little more tested than the Vols. They've played 3 ranked teams. They beat Texas Tech by 4. They lost to Alabama by 4, and then they just lost by about 13 or so to UConn. And that's where they didn't shoot it well, and they didn't play defense as well as they have against the less than impressive opponents. That was at Madison Square Garden. So for this to be away from Champaign or out of the state of Illinois, I think it's going to be a nice matchup, but I think it's one that favors Tennessee.
Be interesting to see how this team bounces back off of a disappointing loss against Syracuse, how much Rick Barnes chewed them, and how much they learned from that chewing.
They're still in the film session, I think. Illinois's got 5 players that average double digits, 4 that average at least 13 and a half. That's a very balanced team. They've got 7 guys that have attempted at least 23s. They're not a great three-point shooting team. They're at 32.5%, but they outscore the opponents 20 a game, which is pretty good. Their shooting percentage as a team, although the three-point shooting is not great, they shoot 48%, which is really good. So this is a very well-balanced scoring team at Illinois. They average 90 a game.
Ryan?
Yeah, good test to get a team like this coming in, and like you said, that how tough the game was last year. Very different teams, but I think I would expect this to be a pretty tough game for Tennessee. Like you said, they seem to shoot pretty well from across the board, having that many scores. I think they can compete with Tennessee, whatever kind of game it is. But yeah, Tennessee's got to take advantage of its length and get to the rim and be more like the team they were early during that trip to Las Vegas when they were playing pretty well.
Well, and this is also, it's never too early to start looking at the wins that help your RPI or help your essence strength of schedule. And the NCAA tournament committee will probably look back at games like this. The Syracuse game is going to be a red flag, probably, depending on how Syracuse winds up. The loss to Kansas, depending on what Kansas puts around. So you need another one. You've got the good win over Houston in terms of really put this one on the mantle. Beating a program like Illinois is another one that you've got to put on the shelf this week. Any other closing thoughts? Anybody you want to say? Anything that's a must today?
As you talked
Cut down
about
turnovers.
No, I would love to see J.P. Estrella be available. He is day to day. It would be great for Tennessee if he can go. I'm also curious, is Rick Barnes going to look at the starting lineup at all? Because last game you got a grand total of 2 points between Felix Okpara and by Cade Phillips. And I know that he loves what they bring to the team, especially how hard they play on defense. But I also think at some point in time you can't let the other side focus on 3 guys as opposed to having to defend 5 guys.
And Illinois has a shot blocker. He's blocked 23 shots, so he'll be a difficult presence inside.
Very good. Okay, when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about recruiting and the portal. What is Tennessee's portal strategy going to be this season after a really good high school recruiting class? What are they going to do in the portal? We'll discuss that next. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like G3 John boats. Gator Tough. These rugged boats are durable and dependable, season after season. Center or side console, storage boxes. Custom design your boat for your needs. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
Welcome back into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. This segment of our program is brought to you by Games and Things. Folks, the holiday season is here. Get your shopping done by heading to Games and Things or visiting them online at ourgameroom.com. We are in the Games and Things arena, as we call it. Everything you see here, basically, from the Pop-A-Shot game to jukeboxes to shuffleboards, they've got it all at Games and Things, including home theater seats. Get down there, big or small, they carry it all. Oh, that rhymes. Games and Things. Okay, let's talk about Tennessee in the transfer portal. They just went out and had a terrific signing class, finishing number 7 in the 24/7 rankings. So, next, what are we doing in the portal? What are the Vols going to do in the portal? It's all anybody cares about. Yesterday is behind us, so what's next? What do you believe their portal strategy will be this year? Do you think that there will be any changes to it, or do you think it's going to be the same kind of, well, we'll sprinkle in a couple guys here and there?
I don't expect wholesale changes. I don't think they're going to go in taking an Ole Miss approach of we've got to revamp our starting lineup, get new starters everywhere. That's the way Josh Heupel's approached it, and I think that's reflected in the recruiting class. He brought in 28 players. They didn't sign a class of 20 or something like that and leave a bunch of room. So, and look at what they have coming back, too. It's a team that's going to have some veterans on both sides of the ball.
Depending on who surprises us and leaves.
So now that's the other part I was going to say. The part of the strategy, unfortunately for fans, because you're wanting to shiny new toys, is what do you do with the players that you want to bring back? Where do you draw the line on how much to pay them if they're wanting raises, if they're hearing from other teams? Who do you talk out of getting in the portal? We saw Mike Matthews and Ricky Gibson and some of those guys toy with the portal last year. Who surprises them by looking into it this year? So how much they're able to do will come down to how many guys they end up having to take care of and what types of raises you end up doling out. Who comes back also? Does Lance Hurd, does Joey Aguilar end up getting another year of eligibility? Those could throw a wrench into some of Tennessee's plans.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, but the obvious needs, you got to start with safety.
That's what I was going to say.
And the defensive line. I mean, those are the two that stand out. Everything beyond that might come down to who leaves and who doesn't. But I think those two positions you're looking for impact players, starters potentially at both spots, and probably at least one starter at safety, and you got to decide who else you like internally that might give you another option.
That's what I was going to ask you guys. In terms of positions, let's assume, though, Aguilar does not come back. So are you going after a big-time quarterback, or are you going after almost like somebody to compete? Not somebody to come in and be the clear-cut starter, but just another third guy who may come in and surprise you.
Just go find Trinidad Chambliss
Exactly.
somewhere.
Go to Fair State, and he becomes.
Here's the thing, and that's tricky because I think you got to go for a big guy, a big-name quarterback, because I don't think that either McIntyre or Faison Brandon is going to be ready to take you where you want to go next year. So then, how much money do you delve out to the quarterback room? That's a big question. Are you going to pay $4 million like Miami and Duke did last year to bring somebody in? And then does that deplete you from being able to bring in players at other positions? That's a tricky deal.
Yeah.
But if I lose Aguilar, I'm going after the best quarterback that I can afford in the portal, whoever that might be. Maybe it's a guy at Cincinnati. Maybe it's a guy at Washington. I doubt you're going to get the guy at South Carolina.
Yeah.
But I would go after a quarterback.
If you're going after a big-time quarterback and you've already got Faison Brandon coming in, I just wonder what message that sends to George McIntyre. Maybe you're saying we're going to have a two-man room. Hey, Merk, will you stick around and be our number 3 guy? Because everybody assumes Merklinger's gone. John, where are you heading? If you've got cash to spend, what are you targeting?
Well, I do think that you have to find a quarterback, and I'm not sure whether or not you've got all the funds necessary to get a quarterback like Jimmy's talking about, but I also think that the interior of the defensive line has got to be at the top of the list or at the same level as a safety, at least one, if not more. So I have no idea what the pricing is like on this model or that model because it just seems like, okay, this has off-road capabilities, but this one's built for speed. So you just never know. But Tennessee put together the best class that Josh Heupel has gotten across the finish line, and you just wonder, what has that done? And does it also roster management include, okay, we have found some wonderful opportunities for you over here. So maybe you would be better served if you left Knoxville.
Yeah, I think that could be a message to some people. I also wonder, what's your running back room going to look like next year? Star Thomas is gone. Deshaun Bishop looks solid, good. Do you go and get a good guy, or do you just get somebody for the end of that room and say, "No, we got Bishop, we got Lewis, we'll just throw somebody in"? Or do they look at it and say, "We need an upgrade there"?
Boy, if you can find a diamond in the rough, and y'all may have heard of them, but the two best running backs in the SEC this year, I never heard of them. Ahmad Hardy came from Louisiana Monroe, and then Kewan Lacey transferred from Missouri and did nothing at Missouri. And they ended up leading the SEC in rushing. Boy, if I can find one of those guys, now it's not easy.
Correct.
And that's where your scouting has to come in. But if you can find a guy like that, now Hardy, at least at Louisiana Monroe, gained 1,300 yards or whatever, but at a much lower level. So is that going to translate? Well, it did. So if I can find a big-time running back like that, I would go get him.
I think you saw potentially a preview of next year with DeJuan Morris getting a lot of work in the Vanderbilt game. I think
Good
Tennessee envisions a bigger role for him. I'm interested in Peyton Lewis. Is that a guy who does he want to stick around? Is he going to get frustrated if DeJuan Morris is taking a bigger role? There will be someone unhappy in that room. Is it Morris? Is it Lewis? I don't know. They'll have some fires to put out probably at multiple positions. Honestly,
I wouldn't want to be I'd take the salary, but I wouldn't want to be a coach these days with the stuff they have to think about. When we come back, we got one last segment. We call it By the Numbers. I'm going to throw out a number. These guys don't know what the number is, and then we're all going to react to that number. Come back and find out what number I've got for these guys. Come back. Welcome back into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. This segment is called By the Numbers. I'm going to try and end most shows with a little fun thing. I'm going to throw out a number. You guys aren't going to know what the number is. Then you're going to try and figure it out, and then we'll discuss it. Today's number, the number is .670, basically 67%. That's what we're looking at. And that is Tennessee's all-time win percentage. That's 11th best in the history of college football, 670. And if you take 670 and you multiply that percentage by 12 games, it's 8 wins, 8-4. That's Tennessee's all-time win percentage, is an 8-4 season. That's 11th best in college football. My question to you, we started with all the people wanting heads and firings. When did 8-4 become the worst season in the world? I remember 8-4 being, it's okay, we'll go to a bowl. But when did 8-4 become a fireable offense?
When expectations rose and the amount of money that people are donating now to the program, they demand more. Yeah. If I'm going to give you this amount of money to buy players and this amount of money to pay your staff and all this, I want better results than that. So they own more of a piece of the pie.
I'd go 1992 because that's when the SEC split into East and West divisions. And if you weren't in the championship game, you hadn't done what you were supposed to do. That's where the bar was set this high. And then as Jimmy mentions, it's the college football playoff.
Yeah,
first it was trying to be one of the Final Four. Now it's the field of 12. And it's if you fall short of that, and 8-4 will not get you there unless you're fortunate enough to play in the ACC. You've got no shot. So I think it started in 92, and now it's only ratcheted up because you are paying talent fees, and there is a lot more at stake when you don't get to 9 wins.
The problem is going to be, go ahead.
I was say 92 is a good answer. I do think the college football playoff has ruined it for everybody, though. And everybody, there better be a recalibration at some point, too. In the SEC,
this is where I was going.
Sorry, there's going to be some great teams in the SEC that go 8-4 in the next 10 years.
You're going to have a whole lot of 8-4, and people need to get used to it. I find it amusing just people acting like this is the worst season in the world, especially when this was your projected record. Now, I realize you go around town, and there were a lot of people who said better than 8-4, but outside Knoxville, which I tend that tells you something. Look at the people outside who have no orange-colored glasses on, and they said, you lost Nico. This could be a 6 or 7 win team. Vegas said you're going to be between 8 and 9 wins. You won 8. It would have been 9 if Gilbert hits a kick against Georgia. You're right on. Plus, Nico's gone. You lost your 2 starting corners, which was a pretty big hit. I just don't see I get it. It's disappointing that you want to be in the playoff every year, but I don't think 8-4 this year erases everything that has been done the previous 3 years. And it feels like that's what's happened.
You know what it is, though? It's what it looked like. It's that this team had such a bad defense. It's that it didn't look like a team that was ready to compete for a championship by the end of the year.
You think it'd be better if they were close losses than their 8 and 4s?
No, I mean,
Maybe.
not so much that it was that, but it's that the defense went from being as good as it was, top 10 in the country, to being this bad in 1 year.
I think a part of it also was that you could have, should have beat Georgia.
Yeah.
If you make a 43-yard field goal. So you see, Fancy, this is how good you can be. How'd you lose to Oklahoma?
Yep.
Right.
How did Vanderbilt blow you out?
And they
So I think a lot of the fans live in their hopes and dreams, right? And they see the potential of this team. Could have, should have beat Georgia, and then to lose a couple of games that they felt like they shouldn't have lost.
It would have been bad if you'd lost to Vandy 35-34, but the way you lost to Vanderbilt, yeah.
And you lose 3 home games, and you just, just the whole, you didn't win a game against a team with a winning record.
Yeah.
That's the whole season.
But I still look at it, though, and it's like, I don't know how many people realize that your all-time winning percentage is 11th best in the history of college football, and that winning percentage in a 12-game season is 8 and 4.
That's
Now
fair.
you can go 10-2 and not make the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Ask Vanderbilt.
When they expand it to 24.
Oh, that's right. I'm
That'll
sorry.
change. Hey, tomorrow we're going to do the Sports Source on Channel 6. That's 11 a.m. If you're in Knoxville, if you're watching us on CW Nashville, you can catch it on the Sports Source digital network. That'll be me. That'll be Ryan. That'll be Jimmy. That will be Josh Ward, Bob Hodge, Mark Pankratz. We also have a special announcement tomorrow. So we'll see you then. We'll also see you back here next Saturday. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.